Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dia Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So, grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. I am excited today to welcome someone whose message resonates so powerfully that we extended an invitation for them to share their stories. I'm Dia, your host. Our guest today is also a podcast host. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Let's welcome Jeff Fisher. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you having me. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. Well, here's a bit more about our guest. Jeff Fisher is the founder and executive director of the Ride the Wave Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting underprivileged communities through innovative programs and services. With a passion for leadership and community service, Jeff has spearheaded various initiatives that leverage the power of mentorship, education, and direct support to transform lives. He's also the proud owner of NCK Equipment, which we need to find out more about, where he applies his extensive experience in the process equipment industry to serve the needs of the food, beverage, pharmaceutical, and chemical sectors. He is the author of Wave Maker, a testament to the profound impact that chance encounters can have. Ooh, that sounds mysterious. He hosts the popular Ride the Wave podcast, which focuses on sharing inspirational stories and practical tips, yay, for personal and community growth. Jeff's work is deeply influenced by his faith and his commitment to making a difference in the world. Wow. Welcome, our honored guest. Thank you, Jeff. Do you need to correct anything, add anything, or subtract anything? Did I get it?
No, you got it. That was a great intro. Thank you so much. You nailed it.
All right, I nailed it. Okay, so this is a podcast about belonging, and I asked my guests to tell their belonging story. And I know you are creating communities of belonging for people, but maybe you had to find belonging yourself first. But take it away, Jeff.
Yeah, for me, early on growing up, I've always been somebody that's been pretty social when it comes to my interactions with friends. To me, I didn't take the traditional path, wasn't the best student per se, but school was very social. So there was some intelligence that I got while doing that. Younger though, behind the scenes, not a lot of people would even really have noticed it. There was some loneliness, some depression. Later on in my life, it was a late diagnosis. I was diagnosed with bipolar. I could be a little bit more on the manic end though, which is a part of me perfectly controlled. I take medication. I have a self-care routine. So it's not anything that I look as a bad thing or anything like that. Not really the type of person that would be in bed for long periods of time, real down, but a crash after. And I realized looking back, but maybe I didn't notice at the time, so many different people had to help me out. I was always in some sort of challenging situation, whether it be my mom, my family, my friends. They kind of had to pull me out of it. They're like always pulling me out of hell. I always had something that was like self or something that was happening in my life. So it really, people were doing such a great job taking care of me. I didn't really feel like I was in a position to help other people out. And there was always a thirst for that a little bit. And I felt a little lonely behind the scene. Wasn't really somebody that dated a lot or was in long-term relationships too much. So sort of that experience of the lonely ghost syndrome, walking around, I'm never gonna have a girlfriend, that kind of thing. Behind the scenes, I think that there could be a lot of unspoken loneliness. So as far as belonging, even though I had friends, certain situations or places I would go to, family, there was a particular aspect to me that didn't feel like I always belonged. And I always thought differently. I was, whatever it means, I was classified as perceptually impaired when I was in second grade. So I had special education, things like that. But looking back, I definitely learned a certain way and I perceive things, I think, a little bit differently at that time. So now it's such a great honor and it's a blessing for me to have in my life something like Ride the Wave Foundation, being the executive director, and all the things that I looked into prior, personal development, positive leadership, things like that behind the scene when nobody was really looking. That self-development is finally coming to fruition, essentially. And I want people to feel like they belong. And the lesson there is, even though somebody might seem like on the surface they have everything, they could be lonely underneath. So it's about connecting to people. The path is to the person is our tagline, to get an understanding of who they are. And we're all connected in the spirit and have a lot more similarities than I think that a lot
So
of people.
tell me more about the path is to the person, what that
Yeah.
means.
So what I found is that there's a lot of distractions out there. Social media, phones, we're always busy doing a lot of different things. And sometimes that doesn't really lead to creation or, what is the end result? What is the contribution? So the path is to the person takes away all those distractions. And with the book Wavemaker that I authored, that's a repurposed story of a real interaction with a homeless person I had who was in a van, homeless, and it's principles to teach people how to approach others on the street they normally wouldn't, to get that confidence, essentially. But what for me is that connections that I've had in the community, specifically underprivileged or homeless, or anywhere, is through principles you can connect to a person. That's where that energy is. That's where the knowledge truly is. If you want to look something up, yeah, AI is great. You can look it up online, but you don't have it backed up by a personal journey, somebody that could relate to you as a human, that has felt all the emotions and that has gone through. There's such great knowledge in people and a unique story that could fill you up, but we're distracted and everything, the enemy is keeping us away from that. So the path is to the person because there's no better connection. That's where the true currency is, I feel. And that's what everything is set up to distract us from. So it's getting people the principles, the tools, the confidence, and the safety to be able to do and mirror sort of what I did with Daryl. Because we need to get out there. It needs to come from the community. It's not going to come from the top up. It's going to come from the inside out.
So humanize things.
Yeah.
Make it human, person to person, because we belong to the human race and we need to be people. And in my study of peopleness, I say I'm a student of peopleness. It doesn't matter. I meet all kinds of people all the time, but everybody that's a person, which is pretty much every person I meet, they're human. And we all have a desire to belong, and we all have our own who we are inside. And the path to that person of who they are is important. So the Wavemaker book, and what say I read it, and then what's it going to do for me?
So what it's going to do, like I said, I think because of where it was written from, where it came from, how it was formed, it came from a pure interaction, a pure source. The very first episode on the podcast, for example, Daryl and I had to get the story out. So it's pretty raw. I just put my phone, recorded it in a small room in the library just to get it out. So it was definitely a divine interaction. So the purpose of the book really is to provide people with a bit of a confidence and certain skills socially that they could do or utilize to be able to make other people comfortable, ask certain questions, and to get to that personal interaction that may be missing. So radiate positivity. It's so important to, even if you think they're stupid questions, to have the ability to formulate questions and not be afraid to do so. So one chapter is the art of asking questions. Sometimes people are afraid of small talk, things like that, getting certain information out of people. So you would learn some principles in order to do that. And then we're going to leverage that for actual training, digital training to start, then an app, and then in person. And then, like I said, it's hybrid too. On one end, it was developed while I was trying to get to the purpose of the culture of NCK equipment. So we also could teach business leaders too, how to uniquely tie in a foundation into their brand. So it's interesting. It's opening up into a wide variety of avenues. Every single thing that we're doing at Ride the Wave does connect to a grand commitment. And the grand commitment of Ride the Wave Foundation. So we got the book, the podcast, future donations, grants potentially, whatever the revenue streams are to go to building an all-inclusive, modern, university-style campus where people could be accepted and not leave until they feel vibrant, healthy, and productive, their best self. And in order to do that, we have a plan on the back end and a grand vision that we're going every day slowly to get to.
That is large. And of course, when you were 8 years old, you knew this was what you were going to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting how God works out outside of time and space sometimes. I always like the ocean, and it's kind of interesting. It's an ocean theme. When I was a kid, I was into the ocean. That sort of just happened. But yeah, I never knew it would be quite like this.
Right. Well, this is your purpose. You were created with all your and what you've experienced and your interactions and the information and the people that have crossed your paths have gotten you by design where you are now to work on this and move this forward with a passion.
Yeah, it fuels me every day. There are times sometimes I had to learn in the beginning because with Daryl being the catalyst, I had gone to a conference after Entree Leadership through Dave Ramsey Solutions. Really fantastic conference. I was circulating with Chick-fil-A, like leaders, some large leaders all over the world, and great positive type principles and things like that. I even chased down Ken Coleman of the Ken Coleman Show, who is a personality. He's a best-selling author, has a really great podcast, leadership and finances primarily. And I realized after sharing the story and connecting with Ken that it could operate at a higher level. John Gordon, Jon Gordon, is somebody that also is a supporter. I have direct contact with the Gordon Company teams, their team too. And there's some people there, their staff that are very supportive. So there's some proof that it could operate at a high level as well. But yeah, when I was younger, I didn't really feel like I belonged or fit in to a certain extent. And I never knew where. I always took risks. That was the thing. That was one thing. I never settled for security. So I think that to be an entrepreneur, to get to something great, you do have to risk it. And it doesn't mean that there's going to be no challenges. It means that there's going to be more challenges. But for
The
me,
challenges aren't going to stop you.
no, because faith is where the fight is for me.
Say that again.
Faith is where the fight is for me
That's a bumper sticker
every day. That's
every
it.
day.
When I'm
Yeah.
off of the spiritual, I'm off of everything.
Yes. So tell me, explain what is it? The NCK equipment?
Yes, yeah. So this all began, I was working under the umbrella of the process equipment industry in the
What is that?
manufacturing space.
Pretend like I'm in first grade.
Yeah,
What is
absolutely. So
process
yeah, facilities that actually do the manufacturing of products like food. I'll give Hershey's chocolates, for example,
Okay, yeah,
making
let's talk
chocolate.
about chocolate.
So you know the lines, I Love Lucy, all the lines where the chocolate
Yes,
is.
yes,
There's large, big tanks that with mixers in it that go in the center, heated up to mix the chocolate in large,
right.
and it goes through piping. Those type of process equipment, the tanks, the pumps, the NCK equipment, I own the company. We sell that and engineering services to facilities that manufacture food, beverage, pharmaceutical, and chemical. That's what we do.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we represent different manufacturers, and we have a suite of products to be able to, provide pumps, tanks, mixers, like a whole complementary line of products into the facilities. If that makes sense.
You never stop to think that, let's talk about Hershey.
Yeah.
Pick up a candy bar. You don't think about, wow, somebody had to make a machine to mix this, or somebody had to design a machine that cut the paper that wrapped the bar that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot into it, from concept to drawing, put it to labeling, and just all the way down to the production process. There is a lot involved. We kind of take for granted sometimes, where we take things off the shelf that is packaged, but There's a lot of people and things that go behind it.
It's almost like the mentality, why do we need farms? We have grocery stores.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's just people just don't understand. We see things, but underneath there's just so many different complicated components that allows it to be in front of you.
Right. Every once in a while, when I see some clever packaging, I stop and I think, somebody's mother is very proud that their child
Yeah.
designed this and it's being used around the world.
Yeah, it's nice. It's your imprint. It's your owning a business or pursuing something like a foundation like this. It's a direct reflection of who you are as a person, essentially. Like everything is me, it is me, it is you, essentially. The colors of the brand, the decisions of what to go on social media, the all the angles, the final say, things like that. So it is your business is you, really, and it's a connection. I think sometimes people don't understand that. They say, oh, a bit, anti-business, or, they should not be able. No, it actually is the opposite. If you're a good person, you have a good solution, good product, or a good service that's going to give to the community. That should be embraced because there's a lot of risk. There's blood, sweat, and tears. There's creativity. There's sleepless nights that are involved in that. There's a reason why there's a business owner that heads it up. And like, I think sometimes it's important for people to understand that.
Right, right. This is all so good. And we're going to take a quick break and be right back with Jeff Fisher. See you in a sec. Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we are back with the fabulous Jeff Fisher. We've had such a great conversation. And if you've watched this podcast, or listened to this podcast, I asked 3 questions in the second half, my favorite 3 questions, and to put my guest on the spot because they have to come forward with some information here. Like, what do you consider is your greatest accomplishment? So, Jeff, questions to you.
So for me, I'll mention just 2 things. First, getting married to my beautiful wife, Kristen, who is really amazing. She puts up with me. She's really great. So
That is an
huge
accomplishment.
milestone. Yeah, I have a beautiful, beautiful wife who I love. God willing, if we have kids, and I'm sure that probably will be another major milestone for us. I would say that to me is a huge milestone, and also really the formation of and the blessing of the purpose of Ride the Wave. I mean, to me, it's more than just, me maybe even thinking that I would live a life of 9 to 5 or, go to work, family, and do those things, not really realizing. I always in the past maybe have thought, oh, I will start a podcast, do certain things, but never really had a reason to do that. So the discovery of Ride the Wave, and every day when I come to work, it's not just work, it's a purpose. So it's love, and it's a labor of love. So I would say that's my biggest accomplishment, because what it's done, it sets the tone. It's setting the tone for my life. And I feel like it's a gift from God, and it's making my relationship with God closer. And it's a way for me to serve and to really bring it back in full circle from the half part of my life where I didn't feel like I belonged behind the scenes all the time, or everybody was helping out me. And the fact that it could be at such a major scale and have real high level traction and seem realistic is just mind boggling. Like, in the next 3 years, where this could go, and the opportunity to provide real lasting long-term change in a campus that could potentially be replicated is just a dream come true. And I'm definitely going to see it through. I'm never going to give up. This is something that I'm willing to pay the price to make it great. and it's something I am passionate about every day.
Well, how long has it been in existence? When did you found it?
June 2023, so not that long
It's
ago.
a baby. It's a
It's a
baby.
baby. I put it this, when I first came with the vision and the strategy when Mark and I were doing it. For example, I kind of saw and I knew that John Gordon companies would be a big deal for me to strategy wise for the high level to do it. I thought maybe 3 to 4 years realistically to gain traction with their staff to where they would be receptive and maybe like it. And I'd have dialogue about a potential partnership and things like that. I've been helping them with the energy bus. And then I thought maybe a year or two after that to connect to John directly or to even get a consideration to do a virtual presentation to their team. So now it's only been 2 years, and I may, knock on wood, be able to have an audience maybe with John potentially in the near future in a couple months. So, whether that happens or not, it's a pleasure and a compliment that would even be a consideration at this stage. But things have been expedited. I thought that it would take 2 to 3 years to get to 100K subscribers. I didn't know much about it, about social media with it. I said 1,000 subscribers the first year was going to be our target. We ended up being at 100K plus. So
Wow.
like a little bit more than I anticipated, it started to gain traction, which is nice. But
That,
there's a lot of challenges though, too. A
oh,
lot
well, sure.
of land it. Yeah.
No, yeah. If it didn't have challenges, everybody would be doing it. But you're getting what other people want because you're doing what other people won't do.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you have to go outside of the box in that regard. You
Right.
cannot you have to set yourself aside uniquely. One of the good thing about today's society is, I think that like we tend to be in such a box with things that if you have something or you go the extra mile where you show up on time, I always say to younger people, show up on time and read books. Just read books, just books. Whether it's maybe Kindle Scribe is okay or something like that, but physical, turn the page, things like that. You have to work on yourself. I really do. I feel like it's a journey from the inside out, and it has to be proactive. Because if I'm on the other end of receiving all the time without checking sources or I'm going to be directed, I'm going to be controlled by my outside environment. So I think you have to take the bull by the horns, and you could create a life for yourself
Mhm.
proactively, program your mind too.
Absolutely. Well, you said that it was your discovery of Ride the Wave, but yet you founded it. And I thought that
Hmm.
triggered my curiosity that you said that you discovered it. It was like, but nobody else had done it, but it was there and you discovered it. Expound on that choice of word.
It really is that seek and you shall receive. My entire life, a lot of people may have not even known I was doing it. There were times during the day, whether if I was in between work or I'd go to the library, I'd read a lot. I did a lot of self-development, whether it be Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, like books, John Maxwell, somebody I've always looked up to. So, behind the scenes, it was a lot of development, me trying to figure out what life is. I did a lot of reflection journals and gratitude. Gratitude Gratitude is a sword against evil, and gratitude and encouragement fuels the spirit. If you think about it right now, everyday life, even if right now somebody's in an environment where it's poor environment, if you just switched your language and just made yourself more upbeat and complimented people, compliments, encouragement, and doing what you say. I get it, like fast-paced world, I sometimes miss a call or there's technology that things happen where you miss appointments, but being somebody that's reliable, I think is really important too,
Oh, without a doubt.
especially this day and age.
Absolutely. And you stand out if you're reliable
Yeah, and
because
I'm not always guilty. I mean, I'm guilty of making mistakes and things like that, but that right
you're not
there,
perfect.
no, yeah, but it does open up it opens up more opportunity for people that would go the extra mile. Like it's easier to succeed if you really pushed it and I think that where it comes from matters. Like if you're just making music or money using AI just to make money, or you're doing something for the money or cars or material. Like I had tried to start a business earlier, but it was for the wrong reasons looking back. It was because I wanted to prove myself to people. I wanted the nice car. I wanted to look a certain way and perceive, but I was always trying to sort of fill in this gap, fill in this void with outside things. But this is totally different because it's now me pursuing from the inside a God-given mission, and it's of service. So the end result does matter, I think. So now that I'm pursuing something that is not about the money, I think the money is going to come inadvertently, like indirectly, like we're a part of it while I'm pursuing it.
Absolutely. Well, I say, and as I've talked to all my guests, we've all agreed that the belonging starts with belonging to yourself.
Yes.
It has to start on the inside. And if you don't belong to yourself or accept who you are and belong to that, then you're not going to be authentic. And then everything you're doing out there is not the path to the person.
Yes. And there's always going to be storms. And what matters when it comes to the houses that stand up or the ones that get blown away, or its foundation, the foundation that's built within the houses. So, sometimes foundations and people are rock, they're solid, or, sometimes they're in the sand and they fall apart, or we could fall apart when challenges, whether it be financially, physically, or something happens that's outside of our routine. It just triggers something that throws us off into panic. Me personally, I've not found anything better than scripture and faith and Jesus, but maybe there's something there for anybody else. I think that it is important, though, to look under the hood and not take everything face value on what people or what you're marketed through organizations that have agendas anyway. You might as well look at it yourself and do your own exploratory just to see. In any case, is what I'm saying.
That is great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, look under the hood.
Second question, what makes you feel like you belong?
When I'm being helpful and when I feel useful in that regard. So really the pleasure I get is that wave. The wave is when you're in that mode of service and you're riding the wave of that energy, connecting to people. And then you have that lane or that window, that path of energy where you could keep it going. So the wave maker is how to connect to that, skills to be comfortable, be able to do that. There's going to be a series with the book. The next book is going to be Ride the Wave, where it's going to be teach people how to get to a purpose, dig a little bit deeper in themselves, and how to sort of keep that energy going through principles. The next one's going to be, I don't know whether it's going to be tidal wave or low tide or something, but it's challenges are going to happen. There's going to be an issue. So a process or some techniques people could use to get back on the board and ride the wave again.
Like
it's an
low
ebb and
tide.
flow, an ebb and flow.
Yeah, low tide.
Yeah.
That's when you feel desperate because you don't even feel a wave because it's low tide. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I feel best and most belonged when I'm serving others and I'm not trying to seek validation.
That's a big key. The reason you don't seek validation from other people is because you do belong to yourself and you don't need other people.
But I can lean into that a little bit. I do worry about my ego sometimes, and I worry about me screwing it up personally. I feel like the only ones that, like, my legacy ends with me. The only thing that could stop the legacy is me. And all the best leaders in the world, they're humble, they ask questions, they ask for help, and they work on themselves, and they understand that it's self-care first. Self-care first. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a selfish thing as long as you're connected to the right cause and spirit, I think.
So good. So good. All right. Last question. You put as your favorite quote, "A dream without execution is a delusion." Oh, stab in the heart.
I know. Yeah, that's a good one.
Where did you hear that, or is that something you made up, or or is it anonymous, or you have no idea where it came from, but it really resonates with you? Expound on that quote.
Yeah. So, like I had said previously, I had tried to start a business before. It didn't end up working out. I had some lessons learned there. And I think that the dreams that I had, or I would quit sometimes. So I would pursue something, or maybe have an idea or a thought, and then midway maybe give up or not continue, or something would happen where I would pivot. And this ended up being such an energy surge. It was a podcast that I had. It was shortly after CJ. That podcast with CJ, I realized that it does work, the principles, because I had a connection with him. It was a unique connection. And energy wise, I was pretty manic then. I was cutting Mark Robinson off, our co-host, great friend. And I was not myself, because I knew that that energy was really, really there. And because of this being something that's so important, I always had like a little bit of concern that the passion would go away or I would give up. So, the timing of it, where there was challenges after, and I'm not saying that I felt like I was going to give up per se or anything like that. It wasn't like that. Since this has started and it was discovered and I've been pursuing it, there's never been a point where I'm like, I might have had a challenging issue or question, but I was never like, oh, I'm going to give up on it completely or anything like that. But midway, when there were some challenging times and uncertainties, knowing that I wanted to pursue it, Skylamis Studios is where I film and the audio recording takes place. Slavek, shout out to Slavek. He's a really great guy, previously a professional dancer. His wife, Denise, also is a professional dancer. They're friends and business partners. Really quality job and work that they do. They were having a holiday party. It's too bad I don't have the gentleman's name on me or his card. I can't remember his name. He was a musician, well-known musician, jazz. He had a red blazer on. I'll never forget. He was at a party in a small room at the studio. And I was going through like little difficulty, but also trying to network and pitch the foundation with the podcast, because it was through the podcast studio. But anyway, he's even sung with Aerosmith as a jazz musician, like at a concert. So he was pretty well known. I can't remember his name, but anyway, he was at this party. I was talking to him. He's a spiritual guy, so he was like, it's God, right? I think you're doing the right thing. I'm like, yeah. But at that time, the way the energy was, he took me by put his arm around my shoulder and he brought me in. He just goes, don't forget that a dream without an execution, and he went like this with his hand, without execution is delusion. But when he did that, it was just the timing of everything that I had going on in my energy level. It was like a world opened up when he said that. And it hit at that time where a dream without execution, and that's it. That nailed it. Because at that time, it wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. The grand vision wasn't fully secure. So that is what tightened it up. And that is what said, all right, well, this is a dream I got to execute. And the only thing that's going to stop it is me. So I love that quote because it inspires me. And that was at that time what made me not step back or give up or anything like that. It was very motivating there. And it's so true, right? You could have a dream, but if you don't execute on it, it was a delusion the whole time because it was never executed. It makes sense.
Exactly.
Kind of cool.
And if it is a dream, you're supposed to act on it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a vision that's been given to you as a gift to act on, unless it's something bad. Don't go act on visions that
Yeah, as long as it's moral and it serves. And I would rather
all legal and ethical.
Yeah, exactly. As long as it's ethical. And I would rather, there's going to be pain in life no matter what. I would rather have the pain of challenging times with this risk, maybe it blowing out, have the pain of discipline and pursuing something that's great and running into it and all those challenges, than the pain of regret later on. That deep pain of regret. Because when I meet God later on, and he says, I gave this to you. I was on that corner. You didn't come talk to me. I was doing this, that you didn't do anything. To me, that is so much worse than me getting squashed by a bus while pursuing this thing. I'd rather go out full on with this and not look back with regret later on. Because that would be me turning my back on God. And I couldn't do that at this point. It's too much.
I think that's very wise words. To be shown a vision and a purpose, and then if you didn't act on it, and then have to face the giver of that gift with, oh yeah, so I just didn't do it.
And it's such a big major project and vision that God has given me. looking back on it is like, maybe I'll be faced with the people I never ended up saving. And if we're here to take spirits to heaven as much as we can, then, I'd look at a C, because if this has a potential of being really great and helping to clean up and make people their best selves at a large level, how selfish is that for me to
Right.
have done that? And that's the hardest part.
Wow.
Putting yourself in check to make sure you could get it done is the hardest part, and not giving up or giving into worldly stuff, and eat an edible and relax, or watch TV instead of doing, things like that.
Yeah. Redeeming the time. Well, this has been fabulous, Jeff. I appreciate you sharing. Before we close, do you have any final words for our listeners?
Well, first, I want to thank you so much for the great questions. I think this was a pleasure being on. And right now, I would just say that I had mentioned before, this was something that was birthed through a pure source. It was a really great interaction. Waymaker, the book, the intro, it's all repurposed, and it's really a real personal thing coming from me. And we are at a very early stage of startup, so we could use any help, would be really appreciated, whether it be volunteer work on the marketing, social media management side, any grant writing, donations would be really appreciated. You go to ridethewave.org. Everything's on there. It has our commitment statement, path to the person tagline, a little bit about the formation, where to buy the book, all the platforms for the podcast, just a little brief on the campus, and we'll have up in the future some updated training and things like that. So yeah, we're really excited about the future. We're young yet, but the wave is coming. Look out for us. You're going to see us.
Yeah, you're going to be knocked down by the big wave. Watch out.
There it is. The wave's coming.
All right. Well, to our amazing guest, Jeff, thank you. And to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember you belong. This is Dia Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye now.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Here Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.